Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much, much more. You'll find show notes for this episode as well as free training on creativity over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hi, it's James Taylor here. Today's episode was first aired as part of International Authors Summit. This inspiring virtual summit reveals the secrets of making, marketing, and monetizing a best-selling book. If you would like to access the full video version as well as in-depth sessions with over 40 best-selling authors, then I've got a very special offer for you. Just go to internationalauthorssummit.com where you'll be able to register for a free pass for the summit. Yeah, that's right. Over 40 New York Times and Amazon best-selling authors, book editors, agents, and publishers sharing their insights, strategies, and tactics on how to write and market your first or next bestseller. So just go to internationalauthorssummit.com, but not before you listen to today's episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Jesse Krieger. Jesse sits squarely at the intersection of publishing and promotion, having signed 2 publishing deals on 2 different continents and navigated the world of becoming a best-selling author twice. He has worked with 100 plus authors to achieve their dreams of writing and publishing a book via his company, Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. Unlike most traditional publishing companies, Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press helps authors through the entire author journey, from writing and creating a great book to providing expert publishing support with editing, design, layout, and marketing strategy. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Jesse today. So welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, James. What a great introduction and a great pleasure to be here.
So share with everyone what's happening in your world just now.
Oh, what isn't happening? As a publisher, I interact with usually many people on a daily basis with incredibly fascinating stories, life experiences, professional focuses. For me, every day is sort of a roller coaster or sometimes a whirlwind of amazing stories and interactions. So on that front, the publishing world remains ever interesting, and we've got 10 more books coming out this fall and a couple big announcements in the hopper as well going into 2019.
So take people through your journey. I mentioned there, you've been a successful best-selling author yourself as well. Take us through that part first, and then where did this new part that we know you for today, the publishing world, come in?
Well, here's the book that started it all. Lifestyle Entrepreneur. Live your dreams, ignite your passions, and run your business from anywhere in the world. For me, James, this whole publishing journey started with that book, which itself was the result of 8 or 9 years of entrepreneurial experience. I'm somebody who never even went down a traditional career path. Like you, I was in the music industry. I had a rock band and ultimately started a record label, and that was my first business. Once I realized I didn't want to be in the music business forever, I used all the skills and relationship building that I had and started consulting and ultimately a number of businesses while traveling the world 3-4 months a year. So somewhere along that journey, it became clear to me, hey, I should write down my process. I should really turn this into a book. So that's when I started writing on it. I can dive into the whole author journey that I experienced. I'll leave it to say that, first the book was published in Southeast Asia in 2012. I toured around Malaysia, Singapore, shook hands, kissed babies, signed books, became a best-selling author without an Amazon edition. This was print in stores, the whole bit. Subsequently got a publishing deal in the US, rewrote the book and released it in North America. And it didn't fare as well out of the gate there, which really triggered for me the thought, how do I understand book marketing? How do I really get good at the marketing and sales side? That's what led me down the road that ultimately founded Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press.
And as you were going through that initial part of your journey in becoming an author, who were the role models, or did you have mentors there that you were able to turn to ask for advice, both on the craft of writing and also the marketing of your books?
Certainly. I mean, my U.S. publisher, Morgan James Publishing, the founder, David Hancock, is somebody that I've admired for many years. He was the publisher behind Brendan Burchard's first book, Jeff Walker's Launch. They published Russell Brunson's book. So really, the big names in the online business and marketing space as I was coming into that space circa 2012. So, as they published my book and I got to know him personally, he's been an on-again, off-again mentor throughout building a publishing company. And now, we're closer to peers than, publisher and author. So it's been an interesting journey and evolution in that sense, as I now play a role of mentorship and guide for many of the authors that we work and publish. So it really is a spectrum or a continuity of experience. And I've been fortunate to have some great people in my corner.
Now, so you're kind of now moved to the other part of not just being an author, but helping other authors get their message out into the world. Take us through that journey, because, there's most authors will never go. Some authors will obviously start up their own independent publisher to publish themselves, but it's a very different thing to be, there as the publisher, publishing other people's books on a very consistent basis, and you're publishing a lot of books. So what was that transition like?
Sure. At first, it wasn't like a clear-cut transition. My book had come out. Friends of mine that were working on books we were just having an informal conversation. Somewhere in that process, somebody that I featured in my book, Jasper Ribbers, who ultimately wrote the book, the first one we published, Get Paid for Your Pad, which was all about Airbnb hosting. And it was something he was doing successfully for a number of years. So that became the trend of like entrepreneurs with firsthand experience that were getting results in a specific field now has expanded to people in personal development and transformation, spirituality, and even some fiction authors. But really, from Get Paid for Your Pad, advised on the design, layout, publishing, marketing strategy. And we hit #1 travel book on Amazon, a few other categories. It was even the #2 business and money book on Amazon. That was when I started to realize, wow, I am learning a thing or two about book marketing, and maybe I should really focus on publishing, because it takes a lot to write a book. Like at most, I could write a book every 1 to 1.5, 2 years. Publishing books, now we have an output in the dozens of books per year. So I enjoy that creative leverage, and we've built the infrastructure to consistently, in my opinion, publish high quality books and drive respectable sales numbers for many of our authors.
Now, something we both share in common is our love for online summits and the power of online summits and being able to communicate, a huge amount of information, give huge value to attendees in a very short period of time. So I know my kind of journey and all the mistakes and everything, but I'm interested in like your journey into also creating online summits, and specifically for authors, why an online summit may be a possible thing that an author might want to look in actually creating their own online summit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and if people are just finding out about me, I've definitely put in some work on the summit front over the years. I actually did my very first summit in 2014, Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit. So I ran a summit to launch my book in the US, and all I really meant was interviewing, in that case, 8 or 9 other people that I also considered being lifestyle entrepreneurs, right? So it's a great book marketing strategy, just as it is a great audience development strategy, just as it is ultimately a sales opportunity. In recent years, in 2016, I hosted the Book, Business, and Brand Building Summit, Triple B. And that was 10 days of live broadcasts. I almost killed myself.
Live. Now that is a serious challenge, live broadcasting.
It was not optimal, I'll say that, but it created for some fun experiences. By day 10, I was ready to throw in the towel.
I bow before you just now for having done that. That's a marathon type of job.
I only did that once. I learned from that. In 2017, last year, I ran Bestseller Summit Online, which was 5 days pre-recorded with live moderated panels. That format seemed to work better, at least for me, not wanting to collapse. But ultimately, the effect was just as good, right? So, summits are a way to build thousands of people into your audience, to really learn from the top players in the field. I mean, it's the best case if you can get them on board to promote your summit as well. But even in interviewing people, I had the opportunity to interview people with multi-million-dollar businesses, some people into the 8 figures, and they're basically telling me and everybody a lot of valuable strategies that they use to become successful. So it's a great learning opportunity if you're consider hosting one. And I think you can also speak to, a lot of the benefits of summits. I would say in the author space, if you have a book, getting on summits is a great way to get the word out, and a great way to build your audience in the process. So I'm a big fan, and that's why I always say yes when I'm invited to other exciting summits like yours.
It's great having you on this as well. And is there thinking about using it as a tool for launching your book, is there an optimal time then to be running your summit? If let's say your book is coming out on November 1st, and that is the launch date of your book, is it best to run a summit like right when the book's coming out, or a few weeks or a few months before, or actually wait until after your book has come out in order to give a second push?
Great question. I'll actually answer each of them because I think it's that important. If you do a summit leading up to your book launch, then I would plan to run the summit so that it ends about 3 to 4 weeks before the book launch. Reason being, you're going to spend a lot of time planning, preparing, executing a summit. Depending on the size and scope, it's a big undertaking regardless. But both you and your audience is going to want a little break after that before they're ready for something else like substantial. So if you've got a break of 3 or 4 weeks and then the actual book launch, that's, in my opinion, the right time frame to build an audience, get them excited and trained up, and then also engage them to support the launch. So that's scenario one. If you were to do a summit to coincide with the release, this is what I did. There's a lot of leeway there. So in the summit week, I set the Kindle price for my book at a discount. I don't think I did this for mine, but I would recommend doing this for yours, that either the ticket to entry is to buy a copy of the book, or if somebody just buys a copy of the book or buys 2 copies and gives a gift to somebody, that's how they would access additional training or get like the full recordings from the summit. So basically, if you do a summit while your book's coming out, tie your book directly in to any offer, the primary offer really, that should be the focal point in that case. And then if you were to do a summit after your book is out, awesome, right? You've got the rest of your life as a published author to bring people together, to host summits and events. You can always use a summit as a relaunch or a re-promotion for your book. I've certainly did that, with mine and for other books we published, whereas like people would opt in for the summit and then they've got a week or so of pre-summit training. In that time, I'm introducing myself. I'm giving them a sample chapter from my book. I'm saying, hey, check out some of the other authors we published. Now when the summit actually starts, there's also a familiarity with what, in my case, what I'm doing and our work. You can apply that to your own summit anytime after your book is out by being a curator in your space. And that's a valuable position to be in.
Those are great ideas. And as you're saying that, I'm also kind of thinking that even another way of using this kind of summit book kind of combination is if you put that book out and you're putting all your work into the initial book launch, maybe let's say a year after the book has come out and you want to give another push to the book, you could focus on, let's say if your book was all about leadership, you could focus on leadership in healthcare, and you could do a summit on healthcare providers and using the same book that you'd written, that came out a year ago as that thing, which gives another, and then maybe the year after that you focus on a completely different industry, for example. Or you could do it by language. You could say, okay, the book's out in English, we're going to be bringing it out in, choose a language, French, for example. Okay, we're going to get lots of thought leaders on this topic in France, and then we're going to be able to use that. So I love the flexibility of something. I know you and I have kind of spoken about this before, and they're just incredibly flexible. And I think in the online marketing world, they've been obviously going for quite a while, but in some of these areas outside of the online marketing world, they feel very fresh and very new.
Absolutely. I mean, look, even in the online marketing world, a summit is still not the most widely popularized thing, although I think they've become more and more prominent in recent years. But you go outside of the field, like our friend Naveed, who helps host a lot of summits, they did one on harp, like playing the harp. And you tell me how many people in the harp industry are like online marketing ninjas, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually opportunity if you're an author on a topic that's not online business, online marketing related. That's totally cool. I don't want you to be watching this and thinking, oh, but I wrote a book about farming. Great. You could actually be the cornerstone for thought leadership in that aspect of farming by virtue of doing a book and hosting a summit. So yeah. It's a great 1-2 punch in that sense.
And one of the summits I did, I did 2 summits. One was completely unrelated to what I normally do, which is guitar. I know we're both into music. We did it on, and I'm not even a guitarist, but I was the kind of host of it because we were running events which related to the guitar. But then the other one we did was for event professionals, because I'm a professional speaker.
I didn't get the invite.
You didn't get that one.
I've been in a rock band in too long.
So we're going to have to get you the VIP pass for that one.
Yeah.
And then the other one we did was for event professionals, and that was for conference organizers, people that I work with a lot. And in that space, there was no online summits. And so it got a lot of attention very, very quickly because no one was doing it in that same. So there's huge opportunity.
Well, and tell me, a question for you as much as value for the audience, right? Is I know you do more in the corporate space than certainly I do, but my understanding from our authors and my exposure to corporate spaces, they'll routinely have budgets allocated to training and workforce morale improvement, whatever it's called, right? And doing a summit can almost be the equivalent of a plug and play corporate training. So I think there's flexibility to take your book into corporate, perhaps through hosting a summit on a specific area that businesses are already got budgets allocated for and are looking for information and training on.
Yeah, I think you start to see it with like financial people that write or do things about financial or fintech. There's a lot of sponsorship that's able to kind of come in there as well. So you did this, the bestseller summit online, the huge online summit as well. I'm also interested to know, so you interviewed all these great authors, publishers, book marketers. What was the 2 or 3 things that you personally took away as an author that you said, I am going to implement this. I want to do this. This is genius. This is gonna really change things for myself and even the authors that you work with.
Well, I'll share one of the single best strategies I picked up from interviewing a bunch of best-selling authors and by working with many myself is plugging in. So say whatever it is that you're using to build your audience, giving away sample chapters, giving away a free resource, even opting in for a summit. Whatever it is on the front end, on the thank you page, having a video where you say, hey, thanks so much for accessing whatever it was you just did. And, I'm the author of, in my case, I'm the author of Lifestyle Entrepreneur. And then talk about your book for 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute, and then offer people to buy the book, send you a receipt, and access some additional training. So just follow this thought process for a second. You see something online, hey, get the first 3 chapters to Lifestyle Entrepreneur for free. Oh, okay, great. You're going to learn this, this, and this. You opt in. The very next thing you see is a video saying, hey, check your inbox in just a moment for the first 3 chapters where I'm going to teach you this, this, and this. And by the way, if you just want to go all in and buy a copy of the book, here's a link below on Amazon. Send me the copy of your order, and I'll give you access to the 6-part audio training called Become a Lifestyle Entrepreneur, where I really talk through all the key ideas in the book. Now, I'm just paraphrasing that, but this little sequence right here will sell you a lot of books.
Yeah.
And at full price, because so here's the takeaway. Doing value-added promotion instead of price-discounted promotions is the way to make money as an author. Doing a price-discounted promotion is the way to move units for a launch and get your book up the charts, like reliably and consistently if you move a lot of sales. But the real game, I think, is played in bringing people into your audience and sphere of influence enough such that they are willing to buy a low ticket item, your book, which in turn, they then get access to something else that brings them way deeper in. And then ultimately, the end of that conversation is having your higher end offerings available.
I love that. I mean, something as simple as a thank you page, just putting that video, putting that little call to action with your email address and the link to the Amazon. I mean, how long would that take? I mean, like no time for someone. You could take your iPhone.
You could put that together in the time we're doing this interview.
Exactly. So really simple. Some things don't have to be complex, but just a really simple way of shifting books.
Strategy, right? And again, I just narrate through. If you're browsing on the internet at large, as billions of people are, you see an offer for something for free, you take it, and then you see a personal message and an offer for something low price that's a continuation of what you already said you want for free, it logically lines up a sale. I think where a lot of authors struggle, and there's plenty of authors that don't even sell, 250 copies of their book, is just asking for the sale and going directly for the book sale without contextualizing it in an experience somebody's looking for, information they're looking for, a problem they want to solve, entertaining read on a topic that they're interested in. That's where people discover books and you as an author. And the positioning piece of what comes next is the real determining factor for success, in my view.
So that's a really simple thing, but actually it talks to a bigger piece as well. What else did you learn as you were speaking to all these best-selling authors? It could be on the craft or the marketing side of things.
Well, the other thing, the opposite side of that spectrum is the New York Times bestselling authors. And we looked into and evaluated, becoming a New York Times bestselling author pretty deeply because a lot of people are interested in it. And what my takeaway, which was kind of surprising, was that like 30-40% of the nonfiction books are sort of a manufactured process that results in New York Times placement. I don't know if those stats are accurate, but when you see things like free plus shipping and all of a sudden everywhere you look, this person's trying to give you their book for free, that's the front end of a New York Times bestseller campaign because you need thousands and thousands of individual sales. That's why you only pay shipping and handling. And then those sales get logged as a sale towards New York Times when the book release actually happens. So unpacking the whole New York Times bestseller process was enlightening. And I can go more into that if you want, but seeing how that all works.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of like people like Brendan Burchard. I see uses that type of thing a lot with book launches where you have the free plus postage and packaging. So, and the way that it's set up, it also means that as you say, they're individual sales. It's not like he's got a big chunk of books which he's having to get out, which are not getting then scanned and everything, which he wouldn't get credit for in New York Times.
Well, importantly, let's use Brendan Burchard for an example, like with, I think, Millionaire Messenger, and he's done it with High Performance Habits into High Performance Academy. He's got a $2,000 training program that's the real offer.
Yes.
So that's something else very important when you say like, oh, I want to become a New York Times bestselling author. Yeah, it only makes sense if you've got like $1 million offer on the back end, because it's going to take a couple $100,000 at the top end of the spectrum to drive the sales, the marketing, and everything else to put those numbers down. And that's why, it really works for people that are consistently putting books on the New York Times is, they've got a 7-figure or larger business that's behind it.
And so he'll have, like, for example, that free plus and packaging. Then they'll have maybe $197, like a lower price or mid-tier price type of online course, perhaps. And then he has as high as $2,000. So he can be really pumping, money into his advertising and really kind of promote it and bringing in affiliate partners because there's lots of margin there. He's not just in the book.
Yeah, well, I think the takeaway in terms of like what I learned from interviewing a lot of people that have done New York Times bestseller launches is the takeaway is not to think of the book in the vacuum, right? Their book launch and even a coordinated push to hit New York Times bestseller is still one part in a bigger campaign that's leading to hundreds of thousands of dollars or more in sales. And in that context, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost like when you go now. We're talking about music industry, where the single, the track is almost, it's not quite the giveaway, but it's getting you into the brand, you into the thing. But all the money is made on the back end, and the merchandising and the ticket sales and things like that as well.
Touring and merch.
You're bringing people up. So you kind of went through all of these amazing interviews, and we're going to be talking about a link to that just at the end of this. But before we start to finish up here, I would love to know, you personally as an author, what tools do you find very useful to yourself as an author in kind of creating the books that you write now, and also marketing the books you write?
This one might sound counterintuitive, but from a publishing standpoint, I prioritize spending time with printed out paper and a pen outdoors. And hear me out, because this is actually an amazing productivity hack. I do a lot of business online. I've built an online name for myself and everything with the stuff that we've discussed with summits and promotions and things. When it comes to content, carving out space away from technology, away from distraction, is where the best ideas surface. So that's what I do. I print out manuscripts. I've got piles of them. I go out and I edit them in the garden, and then I filter those ideas and those things back into the conversation and the publishing process.
So you've got that mixture of the tech side of you, and then the very analog side. So that's great. And in fact, Jay Papasan, who we had on here as well, the One Thing with Gary Keller, they have quite a similar type of process as well. And
it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book.
Again, tell him I said so.
It's great. It's a fantastic book, and they go through that, but they have binders for each chapter, and then they go through and they spend their time doing it old school that way. What about actually talking about books? If you were to recommend one book, this is a hard one for an author. One book, not one of your own books. It could be on the craft of writing or the marketing, launching of getting your books out into the world. What would that book be?
Great question. I will go on a limb and say read Atlas Shrugged, or at least start. It's a fiction book, but entrepreneurs are the heroes. It's a fiction book, but it's the most biting social political commentary you may ever read. And I say read that book, no matter what kind of book you're writing, because one, anything else will seem easier. Ayn Rand spent 12 years writing Atlas Shrugged, and it's 1,200 pages. It's also the single best book I've ever read. And then you can say, you don't need to measure up to that. Your book can be so much easier in comparison. And that should actually feel like a relief, instead of sitting looking at a blank page and being like, all right, where do I start this bad boy?
Fantastic. Great suggestion there. And if you were to start again tomorrow, and I know actually one of the things that you do I mentioned as a publishing company, is you help those people who are they're just getting started on that journey. They may be very successful as entrepreneurs and they're building their businesses, but this world of publishing is an interesting one. There's lots of the pitfalls as well. So I want you to put yourself in the mind of that person who is just having to start from scratch. They have no platform, no one knows who they are, something in the publishing world. But they have some skills about writing. What advice would you give to that person in terms of being able to start in the world of getting that first book out there?
Great question. I mean, if I would say this baseline, if you're thinking about writing a book, then you're meant to do it. And then I'd say nobody ever regrets writing a book. They only wish they started sooner. And I would continue on by saying, what I've built and what we've built at Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press is for the author. It's for me 5 years ago. It's for you today. It's to provide a full supported experience through editing, design, marketing, strategy, distribution, the whole 9 yards, to have an experienced team just handle it so that you can focus on being on summits like this, getting your message out there and engaging with people around the actual material that you've worked with. So, there's really nothing to it but to do it. There's a lot of resources out there, not least of which are this interview and this summit that James has put together. Information's free. Action only costs you time. So make it happen. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
No, actually, as you're saying, as you're talking about free and giving great news. Now, people have been going through this summit; they've been learning from it. But in the time that I was available, I could only interview a certain group of people, and And I think it's what's great about doing these summits, when you hear from all these different voices, you hear their different perspective, and you can say, that author is like me. That's the kind of author I want to become, So I think it's actually very useful hearing those different voices. And you put together an amazing event, the bestseller summit, and you've kindly agreed we're going to have a link here below that people can go on and get their free pass for that and go through that summit as well. So maybe explain to people, because our summits are slightly different as well. Well, tell people about the summit.
Yes. I came bearing gifts. So. If you've been learning a lot from this interview, if you've been enjoying this discussion and you want more of this format, I myself ran Bestseller Summit online, and we'll link that up below. It's set up as what's called evergreen. So whenever you go there, you can go through the 5 days where I interviewed 25 plus best-selling authors, 7 and 8 figure online entrepreneurs, New York Times best-selling authors. So continue your author learning experience at Bestseller Summit online, and thank you, James, for having me on.
Fantastic. Well, it's been fantastic speaking to you today. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to speak. And we're going to have some other links. People want to learn about Lifestyle Entrepreneur Press. We're going to have that here as well. Jesse, thank you so much. I wish you all the best with your writing, but also with the publishing all the wonderful authors that are going to be coming out and sharing their message in the world.
Thanks very much.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.